Tristan, good to have you. So you've got a buy rating on Nvidia, but also on Intel, and an outperform, I should say, and also I believe a hold on AMD. That's kind of unusual. Explain.
Yeah, well, first, we're constructive on the cycle. You know, you've mentioned our views on about the second half, and we do expect a reacceleration in trends. But even so far this year, we're seeing, you know, very good order trends ahead of typical seasonality. Intel, you know, the outperform rating is really based on the belief of a longer-term turnaround story. It's a big company, so it's not going to happen overnight. We think the gap in performance between their chips and that of the competition is narrowing. They've actually more or less closed the gap in PCs. They have still a lot of work to do to catch up with AMD in data center. But it's also a value name, and given the highly volatile environment, we think that this is a name that is going to hold better than average on a relative basis. And we think they have finally the right management team in place with obviously an exceptional CEO.
Well, how should investors balance some of the criticism that Intel has faced over its foundry strategy against the demand that we're seeing for not only semiconductors in general, but regional locations of fabs, given geopolitical tensions? Does that kind of affirm Intel's strategy, and how much doubt do you have about their ability to execute?
Well, you hit on a on a very good point, which I think is absolutely not in Intel's valuation right now, and which is obviously about the geopolitics. And I think, you know, being 100% reliant on Taiwan and the TSMC supply chain 5 years ago was maybe a light concern in the back of the mind of people. I think now, given the geopolitical event, it's becoming much more of an urgency to have at least a plan to diversify manufacturing. And Intel really is going to be the only foundry based in the US that's going to be able to provide leading node technology to companies. And I think the big difference relative to Intel's initial push a few years ago is that now they have a whole team in place. They've actually acquired a smaller foundry company that's going to give them a lot of know-how. And also they're developing a product with customers as opposed to just going to companies and say, hey, we can build a product for you. So I think it's this joint effort that's going to make really a big difference in terms of the company succeeding in that strategy and fill the fab